Welcome to What Matters Most.
We are dedicated to educating the community about holistic, metaphysical, and spiritual topics.
Each week, we discuss things that matter most in life, the things that are most important to you that may have fallen to the wayside.
We are always centered on the idea of simplifying life, connecting with our neighbors, and following our true paths.
Our mission is to empower you to live the life that you've always dreamed of living.
We invite you to focus your life on what matters most. And we're back with What Matters Most, and we're here with Charis Brown-Malloy.
Thank you, Charis, again. So what can your great tell us about Atlantis? There's been so much speculation about the lost continent of Atlantis and that it's going to resurrect itself.
Okay. Atlantis, I was told, was a civilization much like ours in many ways. Mm-hmm. It was different. You know, before I realized that in my study over the years that, for instance, instead of using electricity for their technology, they had a crystal-based technology system. Oh. Like, you know how if you were to explain to someone who has never seen electricity how it works, you would either have to work up an electric charge, a static charge, and shock them, or you would point at the lightning and say, you see that stuff? We've put it into bottles and pipes and we send it through the ground and we drive these automobiles with it, and they would think that you're crazy. Well, it's kind of the same thing with holding a crystal. If you've held a crystal and never gotten that charge from it, or like your hand goes numb or you get hot or whatever, yeah, it's the same thing. They just learned how to use it like we've learned how to use electricity. Anyway, he said that it was never a utopia. Atlantis was never a utopia, but it was a lot more balanced for many years than our current Western culture is. Also that all civilizations on Gaia, they've been going back far longer than our historians and scholars will admit. And also to recall that if a culture was truly living in harmony with Gaia, no matter what evolution their technology had taken, if they were really in harmony and they kicked the bucket, not much would be left. So most of it would have gone back. And he says that a lot of things are buried at the bottom of the ocean. A lot of things that have been found, little artifacts, are hidden away because the people who run things now are very ego-based and want to be the be-all and end-all of human intelligence on this planet. And so it's hard for them to admit that there used to be things that were better than what we now have.
Oh, wow. So let me ask, are they finding things that are very highly advanced technology?
There have been some, I guess. I mean, I wasn't really given details. There have been a few things that have even been on the news and stuff, like ancient pieces of some type of device that calculates the solstices and the stars and the weather patterns, I don't know, stuff like that they found kind of at the bottom of the ocean. They said there's no way this could be this old. There are a lot of things like that that are in basements and in drawers that aren't brought out because we don't understand it, and the people in charge just cannot fathom that there could have been a civilization that was farther advanced technologically than ours. He also said, if you're curious, research ancient myths and fairy tales, that most of them are from truth. Most of them have been highly edited over the centuries, but if you kind of start going on a little journey and keep those facts in mind, that they're based on truth and that they're highly edited, they'll lead you to some truth, and you'll find some stuff.
So what about the Mayans? I mean, I know that's supposed to be a civilization that ended up just almost disappearing.
Right? Again, right.
Do you know anything?
Yeah. I didn't get information on them just vanishing out, but what I was told, because I've heard that they were there and then they were gone. They were just gone, and I don't know about that. But what he did tell me was their civilization was also much like ours, and much like ours, they became corrupted by power and by the control of others. That their prophecies are already proving true if they're read accurately. And like us, they had a great knowledge, great courage, and a great fall. But the story of that kind of rise and fall of civilizations has been going on for a really long time on Gaia. But now it has a chance to kind of end because now the story is changing. It's about the individual finding their divinity and kind of their dance with the universe around them, and not about the control and suffering of the multitudes that the story has long been about as it's been going.
I think that it was a very important reference point where you said if their interpretations are read correctly, because there are so many variations to those interpretations, right?
Right.
So what can you tell us about also the people that are possible civilizations that might be living under the pyramids? There's so much talk about that at this point in time, especially with 11/11/11 coming around the corner.
Yeah, I hadn't known about this before. And so when I went into my meditation and I asked, are there people living below the pyramids? What's going on below the pyramids? What I was shown was a pyramid, kind of a mental image, and then chambers of some sort underneath it. But all he said was that the areas below the pyramids are not meant for habitation. They're meant for some type of use.
Oh,
but
okay.
that's all I got. They
But
wouldn't.
no explanation, no detail about that. Okay.
Kind of that, not, you shouldn't
You don't
necessarily.
need to know that right now.
Kind
Don't
of,
worry
yeah.
about it. Well, continuing from that, and we touched on it a little bit last time. Does he know of people living below the crust, below the earth? I mean, because I know last time you mentioned that your opinion is that maybe the earth is hollow. So do you think there are people are
Or
actually below?
civilizations
Right.
under there, right?
Yeah, well, it's not hollow like a bubble, not like a ball.
Yeah,
you know.
right.
What it is that the structure of Gaia is much more complex than we realize. We think it's kind of a hunk of rock and then there's a little bit of life on the skin of the surface. That's not what it is. Anyway, there's life all through. But what he said was, yes, there are civilizations in the interior that we already have the knowledge of civilizations in our interior. If you look in ancient legends, they talk about people under the earth. That the people below the crust don't interact with the surface dwelling humans because we still have a dangerous disposition. And there are exceptions to this, though, which you can find if you do research. There are people who've been down and reported what they found when they came back.
So are there access points to the civilization below the crust?
Yes, there are many access points, but they're hidden. They're hidden because the cultures on the surface are still primitive and warlike in comparison, and the ones underneath don't wish to be polluted by the mental illness that still runs rampant on the surface, which is that, which is kind of that fighting ego. But it's beginning to heal now, which is also why more regular interaction is kind of going on between surface level and inner dwelling people. I've been told before I asked this specific question, that the reason that we kind of have this mental illness and they don't is because for some reason on the surface, we've kind of like bombed ourselves over and over. There have been all these rise and falls of civilizations on the surface. And for some reason underneath, that hasn't happened as much. So they've actually been able to progress farther than we have because we kind of have to keep starting at almost square one over and over. And they did.
So the civilization that would be below the crust would be considered human?
I don't know. I was told that there's definitely more than one. I think there are different levels. Like the earth is huge, so I think there are probably different ones living in different spots. There are ancient stories of a really, really evolved light being race living like really close to the core or actually in the core. I don't know. I haven't gotten confirmation on that. I do know what I think, and this is my opinion, this isn't direct knowledge, is that probably the people who are below the crust look a lot like us. They're probably different because their light is different, their air is different, their food is different, their practices are different, their thoughts are different. And your body isn't just made up of that, it's also made up of what you think. So
they probably also look at it a little bit different considering and maybe this is naive to think, but they're not in the sun.
Right.
So if they're below the crust, maybe they're, paler because they're not getting sun. I don't know.
Yeah, I have read, this is from research I've done, this isn't from download, but the earth, sunlight doesn't all bounce off of the earth. Some of it gets absorbed. And so when you go far down enough, it's kind of luminous down there and as bright as it is up here. But I have also heard many stories, and I've had at least one past life regression myself where I saw this to be true, that people under the crust sometimes have a blue tint to their skin. They're kind of bluish. But I know that's not everyone, but I know that that's at least something when you're talking about different skin color.
Wow.
Very interesting. So do you think, or does your teacher, your alien communicator, have any information of if there's going to be a point where we'll be able to actually travel to other planets, almost as if we were traveling to another country?
Okay, I was told that this technology is already available. However,
of course,
if we as a culture were to travel to other planets now in the way that you're thinking, we just harm them like we've harmed Gaia. We wouldn't. And so, and also he said that Gaia is well able to heal. She definitely can heal if we just stop polluting her. It's like pouring poison into wounds. If we were to just stop, she would heal herself. We don't necessarily have to heal her, although we will, whenever we get it. But he said either what we're doing will end because we end it or because she ends it. It'll end either way, and a more harmonious coexistence will result. And then when we treat her with the same respect that any mother deserves, we'll be able to visit other planetary beings, and we'll be welcomed there.
Well, and hand in hand with that, would we be able to eventually, when that does happen, live there? I mean, will it be that some people are living here, some people are living...
It's like having a house in Florida.
Right.
Right.
Except it'll be another planet.
I think eventually... yeah, I mean, why not? If other people do it, if other species do it, why wouldn't we be able to do it? We're no different. But the difference will also be, it's not going to be us forging a new land. It's probably going to be us more like, okay, we understand you guys already have this technology and we already have it hidden away in a vault somewhere. So we're going to more join the community rather than go and conquer and discover. See what I'm saying? Yeah.
So why is it, Charis, that there are some places on the planet that there's been more alien types of occurrences happening? For example, sightings, right? Like England seems to be a very highly charged area.
And out west,
what
too.
I
think also out west in America.
Yeah, that question, you guys gave me that question, but I didn't understand it. So when I asked, he said that it already happens in... it's all part of the process, kind of. That, like, they're not necessarily more sightings. It's just that they're more reported. Because if there are tons of sightings in a village in Central Africa where there's like one computer and it doesn't have internet, how would we know? And so there's things going on everywhere.
So
it's just
say
what
that
we know.
it has to do with the consciousness level in those particular locations, that it becomes more aware?
Well, the consciousness level, who knows what the consciousness level is? I mean, just because someone's in a more electrical-based culture doesn't mean they're more conscious. In fact, it often means the opposite. It's one of my opinions that the mental illness that grips much of humanity right now, part of it comes from simply not being outside enough, not sleeping under the stars enough, not being able to absorb the balancing, harmonic resonances that we were evolved to be able to absorb, because we're always surrounded by all these pipes and wires and frequencies and EMFs and all this other kind of stuff. So, I don't know if that answers your question.
Sure. So I guess in conclusion, you would indicate that the more we were outside with Mother Nature, the more we will connect with our real self and our consciousness.
Absolutely, that's who we are. We're so
yeah.
domesticated, and we're not supposed to be. So.
Well, again, if you want to get Charis's book, Journal of a Starseed, it is available through Our Living Well, and you can contact her through Facebook, correct?
Easy to find there.
Great.
Wonderful. Well, thank you once again for being on the show, Charis, and we'd like to thank our viewers and remind them that the simple things in life are what matters most. Namaste.
Namaste.